we are wrapping up Haikyu from Production I.G and is streaming on Crunchyroll. This was the volleyball, boys volleyball team series, and it remained a favorite of mine the whole way through. I think we gave it like a really great first episode review a couple seasons ago.
Plus, I think it had one other very important role in both the greater anime sphere and towards you, which was giving you a placebo until you have more Kuroko's basketball.
And they're doing a good job of this because, we had like Yowamushi Pedal and it was like, oh man, well, what are we going to do? Okay, Haikyuu's here and it lasted through and now we get more Yowamushi Pedal coming up in the fall. So I don't have to have any withdrawals. I'm loving that we're really getting a solid sports show every season pretty much, or a continuing one. So
your hope is that Yowamushi Pedal ends and then you can get your Kuroko's fix.
I believe that'll happen. I believe Kuroko's in the spring and I think Yowamushi's going to be full season. So it all works. But Haikyu, I think the thing is that even though I'm always kind of looking for my replacement show for different shows, I really started to like Haikyu for exactly what it was because it's different than everything else that we had been watching. And I really like Hinata's that fiery personality. And the team was just made up of such like an emotionally rich cast of characters. And I really liked how it ended. Definitely setting up more for the series.
I did find it interesting that in many ways, we could go into details, but the fact that this show really dealt with the losers as much as the winners. I feel like, a lot of series, especially the better written ones, they give a little time to the losers, but I feel like it's usually kind of just a lip service or kind of a bit of catharsis. But I feel like this one really almost focused on who lost as much as who won, especially that first team that they beat.
Once they start getting into the tournament bracket.
Like, I feel like most of the time, that would be, unless there was some greater, like, narrative structure for that team, that team would be instantly forgotten. But even though that team is never probably going to be an important team, they really kind of focused on that whole thing of, even those who play, lose in the first, there's a big important emotional thing, how they can't go on and play anymore. And I felt like that was an important... I feel like even those teams who lost got more screen times than the teams who had won.
Yeah, and I think it really added to the emotional story of this. Kind of out of all the recent sports shows, I definitely felt kind of the devastation a bit more from all sides because once they get into the tournament, you're right, now they spend a lot of time kind of in that aftermath of losing. Like, what does it feel like to lose? What does it look like? And I kind of like that they didn't do... Not that this is a bad thing, because I definitely love the optimism that sports series generally have, and I think that's one of the important factors to them. But I like that they didn't sort of, when characters lost or when teams lost, they didn't just brush it aside and we'll win next time, and we're gonna be fine. At the end of the day, they felt that way, but that we got to see sort of that turmoil that you go through, as opposed to just saying you should just brush it off and really have no emotion about that at all. Or get over it fast or something.
Yeah, you skin your knees, so just walk it off.
Yeah, and you're right. They spent a little more time kind of exploring that emotional depth with that. I was very satisfied with the outcome of the tournament, personally. I really hate Alba Josai, that team that they played the longest game from in the show. And man, I just really hate that captain of that team.
And the setter.
Oh. Yeah. I want to choke him out. He's got that smug face, which I guess makes him a good rival, but I like to enjoy the rival as much as I enjoy, the team that I'm actually rooting for. So I think I enjoyed their interactions more with Nekoma, and I liked the history between those teams and the coaches, and
I don't feel it was all a 100%, we are total bro rivalry, but there was still, even though it was slightly antagonistical, you did feel like you liked that other team. Whereas, Alba Josan, you were like, don't you? It was not as bad as the cheater team.
No, because at least they were confident, they were good. You know, they didn't really play like dirty tricks or something like that. Just hated that. If the captain wasn't there, I wouldn't dislike them nearly as much.
But yeah, that guy just instantly is like, oh man, I hope you fall down a hole and die.
But speaking of the matchups, I did like that before they got to the tournament, instead of them playing kind of like, say, just know-nothing teams or, you know, like playing these practice matches that don't matter, they set it up, like the coach and their advisor sort of set it up so their practice matches were against these real teams that they'd be playing later. So it wasn't just the like, oh, well, we're just building up to like the real, you know, battles that are to come. We actually got to see them taking on these big teams that will continue to matter throughout the series.
I also liked certain members who I didn't think were going to be that important really kind of come into their own, or at least show seeds of where they're going to be important. It did really feel like once Kageyama came on that the white-haired setter would be like,
oh, Suga!
I'm in the background, don't forget about me. Yeah, he really comes into his own.
Although he does occupy that "who are you again" space for quite a while, but they do bring it back. Although I have to say there are like 3 second years that I have no idea. I wouldn't even recognize them on site. Like they show up in the last episode to be like, we're here to practice. I'm like, yeah, who are you?
There's the one guy who has the floating serve.
Yeah, that's not who I'm talking about.
Oh, bro, no.
There's like...
I literally thought he was one of them.
I mean, he is. He's not one of those 3 that I can't remember. Because there's like stupid, jerky, blonde with glasses who he can go and be with the Alba Josai captain as far as I'm concerned. You're talking about Tadashi.
Oh.
But there's like some other second years.
I thought...
Who are you?
I thought Tadashi was one of those 3 second years. Like that's
no, because they're all the first year.
Oh.
Like...
Right, you're right. Yeah, no.
So yeah, there's like second years that they have some names. Oh, except Tanaka. I mean, there are a few, but I feel like there's a couple of other random people on the team that I can't remember.
It does also kind of remind me of Kuroko's basketball, how there are those other first years, and you're like, what are you guys doing again?
I'm sure, I'm not sure actually, but maybe they'll be important at some point. Who was your favorite?
My favorite would either be the white-haired setter or a low-confidence ace. Those were like my 2. I feel like they came into their own, especially by the end.
I thought there was a good makeup. It's so funny that both of the characters you picked are like super quiet characters. I liked the loudest characters on the team. I really love the libero. He's probably my favorite, but I also really like Tanaka because of his, he's like the tough guy attitude. He's kind of the delinquent of the team.
He'd be having a pompadour and messing with people if he wasn't on the volleyball team.
Yeah, and plus they were like besties because they're both in love with the manager of the team. So yeah, their antics always made me laugh. So I really enjoyed the series. I think it was really strong pretty much throughout and highly recommended.
Yeah, it's a fun series. Once again, it does a little different with the sports formula. As I mentioned in our article, I really feel like Hinata's kind of a weird middle ground. He's definitely a support character, but he also has a little bit of ace character. So he kind of does a dual role in that respect. A lot of other characters do that as well. So kind of has a bit of that super support character, but a little bit of that ace character. So I think that sets it apart. Gives it its own character. And
it didn't say that there would be another season. There is more manga, and the way it sets it up, there's definitely more story to be told, but whether or not we'll see any more anime of it is still in question at the moment.
But I feel like I remember it getting pretty good ratings, and it being, especially if the anime, a good buzzed about series, both in Jump and just in general in the anime sphere, so I feel like I'd be really surprised if it didn't get a second season down the road.
I'm hopeful that it does, since we get no sports manga here. It would be very difficult to catch up with it or find out what happened.
Alright, see you guys next time.